Did you know that 1 in 3 people will either cheat or be cheated on at least once in their lifetime? But here's what nobody tells you. The person who cheats isn't always a heartless monster. In fact, the psychology behind cheating is way more complex than you imagine, and understanding this could actually save your relationship. Stay with me until the end because I'm going to reveal the psychological profile that science has discovered about people who cheat, and trust me, some of this information will completely change how you see relationships. Before we dive deep, let me be clear about something. This video isn't about justifying cheating, it's about understanding it. Because when you understand the mechanisms behind behavior, you gain power. The power to protect yourself, the power to make better choices, and the power to build stronger relationships. So let's get into it. First thing you need to understand, there is no such thing as a cheating gene. You weren't born destined to cheat, and your partner wasn't either. But there are psychological patterns that increase the probability. Studies show 3 main profiles, and these profiles have been confirmed across multiple research studies involving thousands of participants. Number 1, the validation seeker. These people have low self-esteem and a constant need for external approval. For them, cheating functions like a validation drug. The thought process is, if someone desires me, then I have value. Here's what's fascinating. These individuals often grew up in environments where love was conditional. Maybe their parents only showed affection when they achieved something. Maybe they were constantly criticized. So as adults, they seek validation from multiple sources because one source never feels like enough. They need constant proof that they're worthy, and attention from someone new provides that temporary high. The problem is, like any drug, the effect wears off quickly and they need another hit. Number 2, the intimacy avoider. These individuals fear emotional vulnerability and sabotage relationships when they get too serious. They use cheating as an emotional eject button. Psychologists call this attachment avoidance, and it usually stems from childhood experiences where emotional closeness led to pain. Maybe a parent abandoned them, or maybe showing emotions was punished in their family. So as adults, when a relationship starts feeling too intimate, too real, too vulnerable, their nervous system literally goes into panic mode. Cheating becomes a way to create distance without having to end the relationship entirely. It's self-sabotage in its most destructive form. Number 3, the chronic impulsive. These people have low impulse control and difficulty delaying gratification. They don't think about consequences in the heat of the moment. Research shows that people with lower activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and impulse control, are significantly more likely to engage in risky behaviors, including infidelity. For these individuals, the thought process doesn't include future consequences. There's no internal dialogue asking, what will happen tomorrow? It's just, I want this right now. This is the same mechanism we see in gambling addiction, shopping addiction, and substance abuse. But what really happens in someone's mind at the moment of cheating? Science has identified 5 main triggers, and understanding these triggers is crucial, whether you're trying to affair-proof your relationship or understand what happened in a past betrayal. Trigger number 1, emotional disconnection. When there's emotional distance in the relationship, the brain starts seeking that connection elsewhere. This isn't an excuse, it's neuroscience. Human beings are wired for connection. We need it to survive. When we feel disconnected from our partner, when conversations become superficial, when we stop sharing our inner world, the brain experiences this as a threat. And what does the brain do when threatened? It seeks safety elsewhere. This is why affairs often start as emotional connections before they become physical. Someone at work actually listens. Someone online actually asks how your day was. That emotional void gets filled. And once that door opens, physical boundaries become easier to cross. Trigger number 2, opportunity plus rationalization. The famous phrase, one thing led to another. The brain is a master at justifying the unjustifiable. Psychologists call these cognitive distortions. My partner doesn't give me attention anyway, it was just one time. What they don't know won't hurt them. We were drunk, so it doesn't count. We didn't have actual intercourse, so it's not really cheating. The human mind can rationalize almost anything when it wants to. Studies show that people begin this rationalization process even before the actual cheating occurs. They start building the mental framework that will allow them to do it. They start telling themselves stories about why they deserve this, why it's not that bad, why the rules don't apply to their specific situation. Trigger number 3, emotional revenge. Studies show that retaliatory cheating actually activates the reward center of the brain. It's literally pleasurable for some people. When someone discovers their partner cheated, some individuals experience an overwhelming urge to even the score. The thought process is, they hurt me, so I'll hurt them back. But here's what the research shows. Revenge cheating doesn't actually make people feel better in the long term. In the moment, there might be a rush of power, a sense of justice, but it's followed by deeper pain, more guilt, and a relationship that's now damaged from both sides. The revenge might feel sweet temporarily, but it's poison to any chance of real healing. Trigger number 4, boredom and need for novelty. The brain is addicted to dopamine. Long-term relationships equal less dopamine. New person equals chemical explosion. This is why cheating feels so exciting. When you're with someone new, your brain releases massive amounts of dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin. It's the same chemical cocktail you experienced when you first fell in love with your current partner. But here's what people don't realize. That chemical high always fades. It's not sustainable. It's biologically designed to fade so that humans can move from passionate love to companionate love, which is actually deeper and more satisfying. But for people chasing that high, they interpret the fading of those chemicals as the relationship dying, when actually it's just evolving. So they seek that high elsewhere, not realizing they're chasing something that will always disappear. Trigger number 5, identity crisis. Critical life moments like a midlife crisis, career change, loss of a loved one, or major illness. Cheating becomes a desperate attempt to feel alive again. Psychologists have observed that infidelity rates spike during major life transitions. When someone loses their job, they might cheat to feel powerful again. When someone turns 40 or 50, they might cheat to feel young again. When someone loses a parent, they might cheat to escape grief. The affair becomes a distraction from the real internal work that needs to happen. It's a shortcut that never actually gets you where you need to go. Now comes the most intriguing part. Most people who cheat regret it deeply. Study after study confirms this. So how is this possible? How can someone do something and simultaneously wish they hadn't? It's called cognitive dissonance. The person holds two realities in their mind simultaneously. I am a good person, and I did something terrible. The brain hates this contradiction. It creates psychological distress that's actually measurable. People experience anxiety, depression, insomnia, and physical symptoms from this internal conflict. From here, two paths emerge. Path number 1, denial. They minimize what happened, blame their partner, and say it wasn't really cheating. They might say things like, "You drove me to this. If you had been more attentive, this wouldn't have happened." They rewrite history to make themselves the victim. They focus on every flaw in the relationship to justify what they did. This path leads to repeated betrayals because the core issue is never addressed. Path number 2, confrontation. They take responsibility, face the guilt, and seek real change. This means saying, "I did this. Not because of what you did or didn't do, but because of my own issues, my own choices, my own failures." This path is excruciatingly painful, but it's the only one that leads to actual growth and the possibility of rebuilding trust.
Are there behaviors that psychology associates with higher risk? Yes, but be careful. This does not mean the person will cheat, just that risk factors are present. Think of it like health risks. Smoking increases your risk of cancer, but not every smoker gets cancer. These are statistical correlations, not guarantees. Red flag number 1, elevated narcissism. Lack of genuine empathy, excessive need for admiration, and a sense of special entitlement. Narcissistic individuals often believe rules don't apply to them. They have an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for excessive attention and admiration. When that admiration from their partner inevitably becomes more balanced and realistic, they seek it elsewhere. They also lack the empathy required to truly consider how their actions will devastate another person. Research shows that narcissism is one of the strongest personality predictors of infidelity. Red flag number 2, history of cheating. Without real therapeutic work, this creates a repetitive pattern. Once a cheater, always a cheater actually has scientific basis in 44% of cases. Now, this doesn't mean people can't change. They absolutely can, but change requires deep self-examination, usually with professional help. If someone has cheated in the past and hasn't done that work, the same triggers will produce the same behavior. The patterns will repeat because the underlying issues weren't addressed. Red flag number 3, constant opportunity. Frequent solo travel, environments that normalize cheating, and lack of digital transparency. Opportunity alone doesn't cause cheating, but it removes barriers. If someone travels frequently for work, stays in hotels alone, has colleagues who brag about their affairs, the environment makes it easier. Add to this secrecy around phones, passwords, and social media, and you have a situation where cheating can happen more easily without detection. Again, trustworthy people can have all these opportunities and never cheat, but when combined with other risk factors, it matters. Red flag number 4, uncommunicated dissatisfaction. Unresolved problems, superficial communication, and ignored emotional needs. This might be the biggest one. When couples stop talking about real things, when problems get swept under the rug, when one or both partners feel emotionally neglected but never voice it, the relationship becomes vulnerable. Affairs rarely happen in relationships where people are actively communicating about their needs, frustrations, and desires. They happen in the silence, in the gaps, in the things left unsaid. If you're watching this because you were cheated on, understand this. It wasn't your fault. The choice was 100% the other person's. Understanding does not equal justifying. You might hear all these psychological explanations and think, well, maybe if I had been different. Stop right there. Your partner had other options. They could have communicated. They could have suggested therapy. They could have ended the relationship. They chose deception instead. That choice is on them. Understanding why someone cheats helps you make sense of senseless pain, but it doesn't transfer responsibility. If you're watching because you cheated or fear you might cheat, know this. Self-awareness is the first step. Therapy works. Relationships require daily choice. If you've already cheated, own it completely. Get professional help to understand why. If you fear you might cheat because you're feeling disconnected, tempted, or resentful, that's actually a good sign. It means you still have the awareness to make a different choice. Talk to your partner. See a therapist. Address what's really going on before you create irreversible damage. The science is clear. Relationships can survive infidelity, but not all of them. It requires deep work from both sides, and total transparency is non-negotiable. The person who cheated must be willing to be completely open, answer every question, provide reassurance repeatedly, and do the painful work of understanding why they made that choice. The person who was betrayed must be willing to feel all the feelings, set clear boundaries, and eventually decide whether forgiveness is possible. Some relationships actually become stronger after infidelity because the crisis forces both people to address issues that were always there. But many don't survive, and that's okay too. Staying isn't always the right choice. The psychology of cheating isn't about labeling people as good or bad. It's about understanding that we are complex beings with deep emotional needs and that choices matter. We all have the capacity for both incredible loyalty and terrible betrayal. What determines which path we take? Awareness, values, communication, and the daily choice to honor our commitments. Every relationship is a series of daily micro-choices. Choosing transparency when secrecy would be easier. Choosing difficult communication when silence would be more comfortable. Choosing vulnerability when walls would feel safer. Choosing your partner when someone else shows interest. These choices seem small in the moment, but they're everything. Because in the end, loyalty isn't the absence of temptation. It's the presence of commitment even when temptation exists. It's saying no to the emotional affair with a coworker. It's closing the door on flirtation. It's investing energy in your relationship instead of fantasizing about someone else. It's doing the hard work of keeping passion alive with the person you chose. What do you think about this? Have you experienced any of these situations? Tell me in the comments. Let's talk without judgment. This is a complex topic and everyone's experience is different. If this video made you think, leave a like and share it with someone who needs to see this. And remember, understanding the human mind is the first step to more conscious relationships. I'll see you in the next video.